At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Hey, today on CityCast Philly, it's the Friday News Roundup. We're talking about Mayor Cherelle Parker's budget proposal, plus how federal cuts are impacting us locally, and Ed Rendell wants to build a national monument in the city. Where's he going to put it? It's Friday, March 14th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Joining us this week here at the Fiddler Club is CityCast Philly executive producer Matt Katz. Hey, Matt.
What's up, Trenae?
Hey, and joining us is Siani Colon. Hey, Philly newsletter editor. Hey, Siani.
Morning, guys.
All right, let's get right into it.
I am calling it the One Philly 2.0 budget, the new and improved version. It's a $6.7 billion budget brimming with vital investments for Philadelphians.
That was Mayor Cherelle Parker Thursday morning in City Council talking about her budget proposal for her second year.
Yeah, some of the major headlines to come out of this is that she plans to spend $800 million on her housing initiative. You know, she's spoken a lot about this housing initiative since the campaign. She wants to build or preserve 30,000 units of housing. So $800 million in borrowing for that proposal. She's proposing to allocate $100 million for her new drug rehabilitation center up in Holmesburg. This is something that is already underway, and this is an expected bit of spending. And then it looks like she'll be trying to follow the recommendations of this tax reform commission, which was convened by council. It called for eliminating the much maligned BIRT tax, the business income and receipts tax. So she's proposing a cut to that. The plan is to eventually eliminate the BIRT over the course of like a decade or so. Mm-hmm. So that's something that is really going to get kicked around. And we'll talk more about the budget proposal. It just kind of came in just in the last day, and City Council is going to be reviewing it and holding tons of hearings over the next several months. Yeah. So, Trenae, you're going to have an interview next week that'll dig into the budget. You're talking to Council Member Nicholas O'Rourke about many things involving the city, but also about the budget.
What also stood out is there are some updates to the bike lane situation, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. She is asking for $50 million for street repaving projects, and in addition, $5 million for a number of upgrades, including concrete barriers to separate cyclists over at Spruce and Pine Streets in Center City, which we did 2 episodes on in February.
People had lots of opinions about it.
For sure. So now we have the new law that says you cannot park in bike lanes across the city, and you get a $125 ticket if you do so in Center City. And now, with concrete barriers potentially coming in, you will not be able to park at all because you'll be totally blocked. And that really, as we very well know, pisses off people in Center City who live on Spruce and Pine Streets because they say it limits access to their homes.
Yeah, so as Trenae said, we heard a lot from you guys regarding your opinions on the bike lanes. So, take your feelings outside of the inbox and straight to City Hall. There's going to be 13 hearings on the different departments and how they're going to be affected by the city budget. And there's going to be 3 opportunities for public comment. April 30th, that will be specifically for the school district of Philadelphia, but May 13th and May 14th will be opportunities for general public comment. And if you're confused about what's going on or just want to share your thoughts ahead of time, they want to hear from you. I've already seen Council Member Cassie Lozada. She's already have a survey out trying to hear from her constituents about their thoughts on the budget. I believe I also saw a post from Cindy Bass also trying to hear from folks. So there's plenty of opportunity leading up into the summer to tell your council members how you feel and what you're prioritizing in a budget.
Yeah, and sometimes our eyes glaze over when we talk about like taxes and budget and numbers.
It makes my head spin.
Yeah. But this is really where the rubber meets the road when it comes to city government and how city government works for you or doesn't. Last year, $6.4 billion was spent by the city in the budget. So, I mean, this is a massive amount of money, and it really affects your day-to-day life. Just for a little perspective, this is last year's budget. City wage tax is what funds 30% of our budget. So that's like paid for by people who work in the city, even if you don't live here. And then 30% of the spending goes to public safety. So the DA's office and the cops and the fire department. 27%, though, of our budget goes to pensions and benefits for city workers who are already retired. That is a massive amount of money that there's nothing city council can do about it. It's already allocated. So the discretionary funds, like what city council and the mayor really has power over allocating, is therefore somewhat limited. And I thought this was interesting as I was kind of digging into how we spent money in the past year. Services like trash pickup, libraries, parks, that's just 10% of the total city budget. Parks and rec and libraries are just 1% of the total budget. And that's sometimes the stuff that ends up getting cut when we're facing fiscal problems. So learn more about the budget, keep an eye on things, and we will also be keeping an eye on things.
We've got more news after the break.
Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more, or visit tremfyaradio.com.
This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video March 27th.
Speaking of money, let's talk about how these federal cuts are impacting us here in the city. First off, within the Department of Education, I mean, that everyone's pissed about that. Layoffs are happening, but most notably, I was reading in the Inquirer that the Office for Civil Rights, the staffers there were being laid off. This office ensures that children have equal access to public education. They enforce the civil rights in schools, not just here locally, but across the nation. They're investigating cases involving sexual or racial harassment, issues with disability services, among other things. Now, the school district of Philadelphia has 5 open cases that are under current investigation by this office. So the question now becomes, what's next? What does this mean for not only schools here in the city, but across the country, young people's access to free public education and all the services that children need in schools?
Yeah, Trump's education secretary literally just eliminated the Office of Civil Rights location in Philadelphia. So like everybody who worked for the Office for Civil Rights in Philly for the federal government, for the Department of Education, lost their job, and Chalkbeat Philadelphia estimates that's about 30 people.
All right. So basically, the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers president Arthur Steinberg really pointed out that the DOE, the Department of Education, does not set curriculum. All it does is make sure that the rules are enforced and really focuses on how money flows to the states. So in regards to what books kids can read, what kids are learning, such as like, what histories they're learning, that does not come from the Department of Education. What comes is just how rights are protected or not, and money. How many flus?
And there's standards, like they evaluate schools based on, meeting certain educational standards. But that's true. Like the curriculum itself should not be affected by these cuts and the possible elimination entirely of the Department of Education, which is also what Trump plans.
Okay, so then other Trump administration cuts came through. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency had pulled $700,000 from a West Philly nonprofit called the Overbrook Environmental Education Center. This nonprofit focuses on community gardens and waste reductions, a lot of sustainability projects in underserved communities. And this was something that came from the Biden administration. And so now this group is losing a chunk of their funding. They're going to have to look at philanthropic partners to fill in those gaps.
There are so many cuts happening across the board from the Trump administration that are affecting Philadelphia. It's actually hard to keep track. I mean, there's even small stuff like Elon Musk's Doge. They canceled the apartment lease for Secret Service agents who have been guarding Joe Biden's daughter, Ashley, who lives around Center City. So there was a lease for the Secret Service agents to stay near her. And now that lease has been canceled at this apartment building. So, I mean, this is like a smaller thing, but so many funding cuts. It's hard to keep track of them all. There's no clear way to know how it affects Philadelphia. So actually, we have created a form for anybody who's been affected by this, federal employees, former federal employees, others who might know what's going on. We have a link to this form in our show notes because we're trying to collect as much information as we can. We would love to talk to federal employees, former federal employees who have been laid off or otherwise affected by these cuts. We can keep your name anonymous, but we really like to get information out there about what's happening because these are federal policy changes, federal cuts, but they are dramatically affecting local communities. And the scale of it at this point is still unclear. So we're trying to collect that information. I know, Siani, you put a link in the newsletter. You'll continue to do so in the Hey Philly newsletter. So we encourage people to click on that link, share it with anybody you know who might be affected by these cuts.
Yeah, and just the disruptions that this is all bringing to us here in the city. Matt, you found a story about how UPenn is doing a hiring freeze. They're trying to review some projects that they're working on amid these federal cuts. Yeah,
Penn has this hiring freeze. They say it's because of higher education funding cuts, other policy changes at the federal level. I mean, we've seen Columbia University losing hundreds of millions of dollars over an alleged failure to handle anti-Semitic incidents. And now Temple, Drexel, and Swarthmore are all also threatened with financial penalties over their alleged potential failure to deal with anti-Semitism properly. So all of these colleges are really bracing for massive financial impacts across the board, like whether it's related to anti-Semitic incidents or just general funding cuts.
This is all happening so fast. I mean,
it's literally only March.
and we haven't even gotten like a federal budget approved by Congress, which is also going to have dramatic effects in every community in America.
Well, there's talks about a shutdown, isn't there?
Yes. So, let us know how this is affecting you. The only way we can really understand what's happening is by hearing from people and crowdsourcing it, because there's a lack of transparency and a lack of accurate information coming from the federal government right now.
In a way, it ends where it begins.
Very insightful.
Thank you for sharing this Red Baron with us, Linda. It's so tasty, it makes me want to share something of my own. I didn't actually read the book.
Me neither.
I watched the movie last night.
I judged it by its cover.
I haven't read a book since middle school.
I'm secretly seeing 2 other book clubs.
But I can't even read.
I'm not really Gary. He just paid me to be here. Sharing Red Baron pizza can lead to more sharing.
This is an ad.
I hate it!
An ad for crisp, refreshing Angry Orchard hard cider.
That is refreshing.
An ad that interrupted your podcast.
I hate being interrupted!
To remind you to stop being angry at me and crack open an Angry Orchard.
That's a good idea.
Don't get angry. Get Orchard.
Angry Orchard Cider Company, LLC. AngryOrchard.com. Please drink responsibly. Angry Orchard is a hard cider with other natural flavors.
Okay, I feel like the next story also involves money too. So former Pennsylvania governor and former Philadelphia mayor Ed Rendell is working on this big project. He wants to build a national monument to celebrate the country's semi-quincentennial. Did I say that right?
You did.
Yes.
Okay.
You're going to be singing it a lot over the next couple of
Yeah,
years.
right.
So
Time to practice.
Right.
good.
This is the celebration of the nation's 250th anniversary in 2026. A lot of things happening in the city next year. And yeah, it is in next year.
And Philly's the birthplace of America. So
yeah.
that's why we will be the center of our semi-quincentennial celebrations next year.
Now, the issue is this.
Yeah.
Where to put this national monument?
Mhm.
So this monument, as Ed Rendell kind of wants, would be a place for like discourse and exhibits.
Yeah, the Inky called it an interactive domed monument to democracy.
Yeah, something like the Dome in Las Vegas.
Except
like
about America.
Yeah, like just massive and, cool.
And hopefully
Better.
than this. But like I have some doubts about the idea itself. Like, how do you in this environment make a monument to democracy without it getting caught up in the culture and political wars in America? Like, how do you make something that's like, oh yeah, everybody's like, oh yeah, I'm inspired by that, and across the board, everybody's on board with it? It seems like you're really wading into fraught territory here.
I know, but it takes time to like fundraise, which he has been doing successfully, right? Getting like millions of dollars.
Yeah, he's the chair of Philadelphia 250, which is the committee in charge of these celebrations.
Right. But this takes me back to that conversation when even the Octavius Cattle statue was being put up in front of City Hall. And this was the time when the nation was trying to figure out and having conversations and debates over, Confederate soldiers having statues, but they lost in the Civil War. But it just took groups of people who were ambitious and had the coins to do so, to put these statues up. I don't think this really has anything to do with like the federal government per se, but maybe something is like this is needed to just counter what we are seeing down in Washington.
Oh yeah. So it could be like kind of a potentially unifying project.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying?
But the real issue is where to put it. Like I said, Rendell wanted to put it in Love Park. Do you think I just don't think there's enough space there for
there's
what
too much
this
going
looks
on
like.
over there.
Don't even get me started on that park. That whole remodel, I know there were some logistic issues, especially with the parking lot underneath, of why they reconfigured it the way they did. But it's so boring, and I wish there was better for Love Park. But even then, I feel like that type of monument would just make it too crowded. So then you have the opposite problem in the park.
They also wanted to build it on the Schuylkill banks.
Right.
But then that got rejected.
Again, another where like there's not enough room.
Aren't they trying to put a beach and a pool in that area as well? Yeah. There's a lot of activity happening in these places they're already recommending.
I like the idea of putting it in Fairmount Park near the Police Touch Museum, which was first built for the 1876, the 100th anniversary of America, when we had like 10 million visitors came to Philly from like dozens of countries. And the Police Touch Museum, which was not the Police Touch Museum at the time, it was like it was built as an art gallery for the Centennial exhibition with art exhibits from all over the world. This incredible project. So I like the idea of putting it at Fairmount Park, where this great building was built and still lasts today from 150 years ago. I mean, part of the argument behind constructing this in the first place is that traditionally, for our anniversaries in Philadelphia, we've built great things like the building that is now the Police Touch Museum. 1926, The Ben Franklin Bridge was built. That was for the 150th anniversary, or marked the 150th anniversary. FDR Park came in at that time as well. In 1976, we got the Mann Center, the African American Museum. So there have been these things we've created, these like legacy projects.
Yeah.
And Rendell wants that,
Right.
which I get.
But the response from the city was no to the Love Park idea.
Yeah.
And council member at large, Isaiah Thomas, he is one of the planners, the essential planners for the 2026 celebration. He was like, hey, let Ed Rendell kind of like take this on. He's stepping up and, we love that. And let's work together with him on this project. But the question still remains where to put this monument.
Yes. And I also wonder as well, with talking about the city budget earlier, is this something that Philadelphians want, or would they wish, can this be money better spent elsewhere when it comes to other needs in the city? Do we really need a monument or this institution when we luckily have a plethora in this city? I think it's always great to have more, but with all the issues that we have going on in the city, some people might think we should be spending this money in better ways. Let's celebrate the founding of this country and this city with something that's going to continue to sustain us.
Great point.
But we have to stick it to Boston, too. Because other cities are, we're not the only ones celebrating it. Like DC is doing stuff, Boston. And I saw a quote that apparently Boston said that the revolution started in Boston. Philly's just where they filled out the paperwork.
Who said that?
Someone from Boston, apparently. I was like, oh no, we have to do something.
Yeah. That's crazy. But I'm also thinking about the timeline. It takes time to build these things and design it. Well, I think the design is there, but it takes time to build it. Yeah. And it is March and FIFA World Cup is coming.
MLB All-Stars.
Lots of activities are happening. But yeah, so it's like we have to figure out the timing on this and figure it out quickly.
What kind of monument would you want to see for our 250th anniversary? Oh, what would I like to see, you want to know? What did I come up with in the shower last night? That's where I do my best thinking. What if, this is my idea. So given that sports is our main cultural unifier in this country, like it's maybe the only thing that strangers across this diverse land can connect on, wouldn't it be cool if we did some sort of like sports related national monument with our greatest athletes from different sports and put it in like Fairmount Park?
I think I remember seeing talks about like, why doesn't Philly have like a sports museum with just all the athletic figures that we've had throughout the years?
And maybe there's a Philadelphia figure in there, but it doesn't necessarily have to be only Philadelphia athletes. But I mean, you could do something over the breadth of history and kind of pick half a dozen or a dozen. It'd be cool. Like, those Nike ads where one athlete and one sport morphs into the next? It would be cool if you see right? You see like Jalen Hurts throwing a touchdown and then it's like Bryce Harper running with a glove. It'd be cool to like kind of, listen, I'm just the idea guy. Throwing that out there. Governor Rendell, that's my idea for you. Free idea.
I think whatever it is, it needs to be universal. So I don't know about the sports idea because it needs to be universal. We literally saw the Black Lives Matter mural in DC being dismantled. And so I feel like whatever it is should be more universal, that it doesn't speak to like a time specifically, like an athlete, a Jalen Hurts. Because after a while, people, there's going to be new Philadelphians born.
Well, maybe you just do athletes that are
and they're going to forget.
Maybe it's just only athletes in this monument that are have already passed away, right? So then it's like, people who we can appreciate through the lens of looking back at history as opposed to just whoever's hot now.
That's true.
Otherwise,
but I do feel like, though, like just the indigenous people, the founding fathers, so to speak, all of the civil rights movements and all that. I feel like all of that, we need all of that history, even till present.
For sure. Well, Jackie Robinson definitely got to get in there.
See, sports related.
You're saying
I'm saying no sports. Not like no sports included, but not just like a sports thing.
Got it.
Because our identity changes so much that
I just feel like that's the only one that's not going to get.
You're saying this because
canceled.
we just won. And you're probably still off the winning high.
Yeah, that's true. But this is really like if you go to another part of the country, you're in an airport in Albuquerque and you meet somebody who's a different age and a different ethnicity and has totally different politics from you. And you're sitting at the airport bar, you can talk to that person for 45 minutes about one thing, and that would be sports. Where are you flying to? Oh, Philly. Where you live in Philly? Yeah. You're off and running about the Eagles.
Well, it's either sports or cheesesteaks.
Right.
And Ed Rendell actually gave us like National Hoagie Day.
That's true. All right, so we need a cheesesteak.
Maybe it's like a giant cheesesteak revolving that form, like your idea transforms into a hoagie, transforms into Price is Morphin. All right, what are you guys doing this weekend?
I'll tell you.
Are you getting drunk in Northern Liberties at the Espresso Martini crawl?
I started having heart palpitations when I read that.
You can only have like 2.
Oh my God.
And then you'll fall down.
For real. So Northern Liberties on Saturday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. is having an Espresso Martini bar crawl. 5 hours, and wait for it, 14 locations. So can you imagine drinking 14 espresso martinis? It's not even the alcohol that scares me. It's the caffeine intake.
And you have to consider, too, this weekend is going to be a mess because it is also St. Patrick's Day weekend. So you're not just having people doing the espresso martini crawl. They're doing all the bar crawls for St. Patrick's Day.
Eating Irish potatoes.
Oh,
my gosh. Which I love. I love Irish potatoes. And it's going to be nice out.
Right. So people are out for the first time in 4 months, just ready to go off. And I mean, that sounds like a full weekend bender if you have that much caffeine and alcohol.
I mean, I love an espresso martini.
As do I. But can you have more than 2 in a sitting?
Really?
No.
Not really. Well,
maybe
3.
Yeah.
It's gotta be light, watered down a little bit.
So that's what I am not doing this weekend. I am, though, going to FDR Park Saturday. We are having a cleanup through my son's baseball league.
Great.
Because we play down at FDR Park, the beautiful baseball fields down there, right across from the stadiums. And it's the beginning of the season, so be out there bright and early on Saturday, getting the fields ready and doing a general cleanup with the kids, of course.
That'll be really sweet.
Siani, what are you doing?
I will be minding my uncaffeinated business at the Greater Philly Yarn Crawl that's also happening this weekend.
You might need some espresso to start knitting.
Well, we're going to see. There's definitely a lot of different locations, a few of them in the suburbs. I don't think I'm going to make it out that way, but I'll try to bounce around the city, see what inebriated people I might run into in the process, but I'll try to have a nice, calm time.
That's funny. You guys hear about this new Steven Starr restaurant opening at the old Barnes & Noble?
Well, there's 2.
It's described as the Italian part.
The Italian part, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about that in the newsletter this week, I think, right? Talked about how many like pasta dishes they are tasting before they open it. It's called the I asked my Italian friend actually. Borromini. It doesn't really, it's not as easy to remember as Park. But he also is going to open another place on Rittenhouse.
Oh.
Another one?
Yeah.
How many?
In the former Devon
Seafood.
In the former Devon Seafood.
Yes.
But he hasn't said what the concept for that is. They should just
Amazing.
name that park Star
Just
Park.
Star. So we can pronounce it.
And how many restaurants is he up to now in the city at this point?
I actually just counted 18 in Philly.
Wow. Some restaurants I didn't even know were star restaurants.
I know. There should be a Steven Starr monument for the 250th
There you go.
of America.
A cheesesteak transforms into Steven Starr. Well, I'm going.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I'm celebrating my son's birthday.
Cool.
He's turning the big 13, but it's really next week. But that's spring break, so it's like everyone's gonna be out of town. So gotta wrangle up these kids before everyone leaves.
Well, happy birthday to him. Hope you have a good birthday party.
Thank you.
Get plenty of presents.
I'm a little sheesh. That's it. What a week. We did talk about FIFA 2026 coming to Philly. Any updates?
Well, we just got the official song for Philadelphia Soccer 2026.
Ooh.
So maybe we can send everybody off for the weekend by listening to a little bit of the song, because guess what? Guess who made it?
Who
DJ
made it?
Jazzy Jeff.
Ah!
Yeah. So this is what you'll hear when you're watching FIFA soccer games next year from Philly on TV. This is what they'll play.
Before we leave, Matt, Siani, thank you so much for joining me on CityCast Philly.
Always good to be here.
Thanks, Trenae.
Have a great weekend. And here is that Jazzy Jeff song. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Our executive producer is Matt Katz. Our producers are Abby Fritz, Sophia Lowe, and Selena Say Reynolds. Our Hey Philly newsletter editors are Siani Colon and Natalia Aldana. And our host is me, Trenae Nuri. Music is by Philly's own Interminable, with additional music from all the kimonos. If you enjoyed the show, please tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Philly. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend, y'all, and be safe. Bye.